What's up guys, welcome back to the video. My name is Primitive Viking and we're going to be finishing off the Viking shield build that we started in the last episode. I was able to get it finished before Ren Fair, and at the end of the video I'll throw in a photo of me walking around the Ren Fair with it strapped on my back with my axe and drinking horn and my full Viking garb. The end of the video will finish a little abruptly because I was just finishing off the strap and the video was corrupted, unfortunately, the file. So I've left out the making of the strap. But I'll go through that at the end of the video. I'll show you little close-ups and stuff of it so you can see how I made it and put it together. But yeah, it was a lot of fun walking around the Ren Fair, and a lot of people asked me about the shield and where I got it from, and I told them, well, unfortunately I made it, and if they want to know how to do it, then they'll have to watch the videos on my YouTube channel. So yeah, sit back, relax, let's finish off this shield and let's get back to the build. So going back to where we left off in the last video, you can see that I've finished off going through and making sure everything is nice and stained. It was that nice white oak that I stained it, and it's come out quite nice there. This is a couple of days after I'd done that. Yeah, I made this template to mark up the holes where I'm going to be stitching the rawhide to the shield. Each hole is 1/4 of an inch from the edge and 5/16 apart. So it's fairly straightforward. You just go through and mark all the holes like I'm doing right here, and then you go in and start drilling them. And I just went through, I did a little tester here, just drilled all the holes out just to see what they were going to look like and make sure that they were the right spacing, and everything looked pretty good from what I could see, so I carried on with drilling all the pieces out. And the way I did it was, and you'll see this towards the end of this little shot here, I drilled all the holes out, and then what I did was overlap the template by one hole and put a nail through, which you're going to see right here in just a second. There it is. Yeah, so I put a nail through just so I could line it up and get all the spacing correct, and then went through, marked everything. I switched out to a Sharpie because it's a little easier and quicker to see where everything was going in. But yeah, marked everything up, and then I just started to drill the end holes, and just rinse and repeat basically all the way through this, and carried on with what I was doing. And then from here I just went through and drilled all of the holes out. There were a lot. I never actually counted them, but I could probably go back and look at the footage and figure out how many holes there were. In total, I think on the rawhide, when I put those holes in lengthways, there was 92. So I think I cut maybe 4 holes off of that. So yeah, we're looking at kind of like 85, 86 holes drilled all the way around the outside. So yeah, quite a few. You can see here, I'm just working my way through it, getting all the holes nice and drilled. And what I did notice was that as I did this on the back side, which is the side that is closest where the handle is going to be, it did punch through the wood a little bit and chip it, which is fine. I went through later on and restained some of the edges just so it looked okay. But to be perfectly honest, you can see I'm going through showing all the holes. To be perfectly honest, the rawhide covers most of the imperfections of it anyway, so it worked out pretty well. So here I've got 1/2 inch rope. That's 10 foot length of it, and I probably cut maybe, I don't know, about 4 feet off. But went round, made sure everything was clipped on and nice and tight around the outside of it, and then you get the trusty glue gun and stick it all in place, and you stick both sides of it so that it is nice and tight, and it's not going to go anywhere while you're stitching your rawhide on, because the worst thing that can happen is that your rope falls off and you're trying to wrangle the rope and the rawhide at the same time, and it can be an issue. But yeah, just take your time with this, get it set up nicely. And I had it settled on a piece of wood here. Looking back on this, I probably would go down to like a local department store cooking section and pick up a Lazy Susan. If you've not seen a Lazy Susan, it's one of those pieces of wood that's got like a roller system on the bottom of it, which allows you to spin it 360 degrees, and that would work perfectly for this. Allow you just to spin it round and stick it up. I've sped it up again here, you can see. But yeah, just get everything where it needs to go, nice and lined up and stuck in place. And I repeated this all the way around, and then once it was nicely stuck and dried on one side, I flipped it over and stuck it on the other side. Yeah, I probably went through about 8 glue sticks doing this. It takes a lot of glue, but yeah, you don't want it to start shifting when you're doing things later on. You'll see in just a second as well, as I remove the clamps, there's spaces there as well that have no glue, so just make sure that I fill those spaces in with the glue. And you can see right here, I've got right to the end of this piece of rope. And I'm going to take a pair of shears and give it a little snip, take that end off. Nice clean cut. I say clean, I did have to pull a little bit off, but you know, that's what you get with this type of rope. And then you just take your glue and stick it in place and make sure the end is nice and tightly secured. Now you can use any type of rope that you want, but I went for a more traditional type of rope. This was probably about 33 cents a foot. I picked up from Home Depot. You can get it from any garden store or anything like that, home improvement store, things like that, and it's usually fairly cheap depending on what you get, and it doesn't have to be the expensive stuff. So from here I moved on to doing the rawhide, and I picked up this rawhide from a seller over in Germany on Etsy. His name of the shop is Leder Shop Bayern. I'll put a little link for it down below in the description. The reason I went for this seller is because he was very specific in the sizes that he could do. So I got a length of 260 centimeters and a width of 10 centimeters. And that would give me the size I need to be able to get around the rope and everything that I've just put on. So you can see we're using a template here. It's each hole is an inch apart, and from the edge they are 1/4 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch, and that's on both sides. So yeah, I just did the same system as when I did the around the outside of the shield. Just lined up the holes and made sure everything was going together nicely, evenly spaced. And it just take your time with this, because it just comes out really quite nice. And then from this part I went on to just knocking all the holes out, and I've left the sound in as you can kind of hear what I had to go through. But yeah, total of each line had 92 holes in it, so what's that, 396 something holes that I had to knock out. It took me a couple of hours. You can see how I had it just kind of falling back into the bucket as I went through. I wanted to keep it as malleable and usable as I possibly could. But yeah, just take your time with this. Make sure the spacing's correct and looking good. And yeah, get yourself a good punch. I picked up this punch from Tandy leather. I'll put another link for that down below. Like I said, all of my pieces will be down below that I've used all of the tools. So I put that back in the bucket to soak for a little bit longer, and then I moved on to the boss. And the boss here, I'm just measuring the inside so that I can cut the hole to the right size here, so that my hand can fit inside it. So it's a 6-hole boss that I picked up from Amazon. Again, I'll put a link down below. And I wanted to make sure that it was going to fit properly, and it was 3 inches from with that point to the center there. It's a 6-inch total hole. So yeah, just here, like I did originally when I cut the shield out, just drew the circle around to get a nice perfect circle on there, and you can see that nice dark line. Make sure you got a good pen just to do that, and work your way through it. And then what I did was I grabbed a hole saw and just cut through both sides just to get a nice clean hole. I didn't want to get any chipping this time coming out of it, so I wanted to make sure that it was nice and clean. So yeah, once you got your hole cut, just what I did next was I grabbed my Stylus that I got from Tandy leather and just worked my way around here, and just got a nice deep groove, the same one that I used to make the plank. And then I grabbed a knife and just did a nice deep cut all the way around the outside. Now what this does, which I should have done when I initially cut the shield the first time, was it just breaks up the strands of the wood and allows you to cut through it without pulling chunks off. And then I grabbed my jigsaw with a nice new blade. I'm not going to make that mistake again. And worked my way around nice and slow. This is a sped up video, obviously, because I want to get through it quickly. But yeah, just took my time, cut around it. There's a couple of places where it chipped up, but it's fine because it's on the backside, so not a lot of people see it. But what I did, and I recommend everybody do, is just to make it look nice, grab your sandpaper like I have here. Just go around, smooth everything out, because obviously your hand's going to be brushing up against this, and if there's any splinters or chips or anything, it could catch on your hand, so just take your time with it. And then just flip it over and do both sides and make sure that they're nice and smooth. And then what I do here is I'm grabbing some frog tape, which is like painter's tape basically. Just going around, and it allows me to grab the boss here in a second. First I'm just going to go through and measure up center, and I did that by finding the center of each plank, which, if you remember, they were 4 inches wide, so I found 2 inches across and just marked on this tape center there, and then got the center of the side planks. And it allows me to then center up that boss and mark the holes where I need them without actually marking the wood. Now the reason I'm doing that is because I'm marking on the front side, which is where you're going to see the boss itself. It's basically going to be the show side. And if you make a mistake, you don't really want it showing, so that's why I have the tape down. Allows me to mark it up and not mark the shield itself. So yeah, I grabbed my pen after I made sure everything was centered, went round, gave it a good marking up, and then grabbed my drill and went through. These are basically pilot holes to start with. I thought it was going to be the right size, but later on I actually went and picked up larger peening rivets, just because I wanted to make sure there wasn't too much slippage and movement of the boss when it was peened into place. So I actually went around with a larger drill bit and just made it a little bit larger. And once I'd got all the pieces in place, all the holes drilled, I went through and pulled the tape off. Now we're on to the stitching of the rawhide. Now this was new to me. I'd never done this before. Again, this was a technique that I saw from Dark Horse Workshop, which link again is in the description below. This is where I got the design for this shield from. And he shows a way of doing, this is saddle stitch. So I've left the 2 holes open at the top because that allows an overlap of the rawhide as you come round, which you'll see at the end of this. I'll show a little bit of it. So what I recommend getting, which I didn't have, is some gloves, because my hands have been ripped up pretty badly. Basically it rubs so much as you cinch these stitches down that you get blisters and your skin peels off, and fun stuff, which I guess is the rawhide getting its own back on you, because it was skin of another animal at one point. But yeah, so this is your basic saddle stitch. Now I used artificial sinew that is from Tandy leather, and it's a 3-strand artificial waxed sinew. A little more authentic. Obviously in original Viking times they would have used like a string made from wood, or used catgut, which is kind of what I'm emulating here by using the artificial sinew. Now you can see where I've done the 4 holes. It's 2 holes each side, and the reason that I've done that, it's another thing that Dark Horse showed, is that as you stitch it, you can fold the edge underneath, and it gives a real clean look to it. A lot of people have done it before, and they just do a single hole, and you get that cut edge. And if you haven't cut it nice and straight, then it can show up. But basically, you can see here I go through the inside hole to the outside hole, and then through the shield, and then through the outside hole to the inside hole, and it just helps pull it together. And each time you go through, just cinch it as tight as you can. Just pull it, and then you'll see in a minute. I get quite a few different band-aids on my hands just to make sure that I'm not bleeding everywhere. But it's a time-consuming process. It took me probably about 4 hours, and halfway through I had to go and pick up my daughter from school, which meant that I had to figure out a creative way of keeping the rawhide damp. So I managed to put half of it back into the bucket and put damp cloths all around it just to keep it workable. It dries fairly quick, and as you make your way around it, you kind of want to just make sure everything's nice and tight. Now you can see here I tied it off. So I cut each length of the artificial sinew to about 13 feet. You can do shorter. You can do, there's my nice orange band-aids. You can do them shorter than that, but I wanted to make sure that I had enough to work with. You could do the full length for the full shield, but that's a lot of thread to work with. So this just allows you to have something that's workable and you can take your time with. So yeah, you just go backwards and forwards, repeating yourself. And you get quick at it because, as I said, I'd never done this before in the past. And you get used to it very quickly. And there's a couple of times where I missed a couple of stitches and I had to go back and throw them back in. But yeah, you can see as I go through, like both sides, I give it a good cinch down right there. You can see it. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then as it dries out, you want to go back through and just cinch them all back down again. Now what I did was I grabbed a couple of just round edge like pikes and just got into the stitching and just pulled it apart and got it nice and tight and pulled all the way back down. Now because I was in a rush, this is the day before the Ren Fair that I was doing this, and I was rushing through it as fast as I could. Now in hindsight, I only did one cinch, so I would go back and do maybe another two, because on the finished shield right now the thread is quite loose, so I would have to go through and cinch it again, and where I cut off the excess thread, it's going to be very difficult for me to do that. So I might go back later on, now that everything is dried and kind of in place, just go through and tie everything back down with fresh sinew. What you can see me doing just here is I'm cutting the extra holes that are on the outside off, so that I can fold this piece underneath the overlap and then stitch everything back down and finish it off. And yeah, like I said, this took me about 4 hours to do, and it was drying relatively quickly because I was working outside. I'm going to work on building a workshop and getting everything nicely done. But yeah, it takes its time. And then from there, I went on to working on the handle. So I just got a nice piece of turning wood that I got from Rockler, and got it on my table saw here, and just made sure I cut through a decent amount. Now you can make your handle however you want to have it. This is just how I wanted to do it, and I got my Japanese saw here just to get nice and flush. Now take your time with this, because obviously this is what you're going to be holding for hours on end, which I found out at the Ren Fair. What I did, and I probably should have done a little bit better than this, was I left 1/4 of an inch. That's the overlap that goes on the back of the shield. This is the part here. There's the flat piece that's at the bottom there. And that is the part that attaches to the shield using the peening rivets. I ended up having to sand off quite a bit of this and get it even thinner, because it was too thick. And you have to bear in mind that you're going to have to go, at least for the center one, through the boss, through the shield, and then through that piece of wood as well. So I ended up having to sand quite a bit down. Now I got my jigsaw here and just did a nice little taper on the wood. And after this, I went inside and did a lot of sanding. And you'll see this the finished piece later on. I'll show you. But here we're moving on to the peening. So I've got nice brass 1-inch rivets. I'm just getting onto the outside of the boss. And it's pretty simple. You get your your peening tool, and you just put over the top and knock the rivet down, which locks the peen rivet into place. Sorry, the washer. It locks the peen rivet into place. And then you cut off the excess, and then you get your peening rivet again, which has like a little small anvil on the underside of it. And you get it flush, and then you get your peening hammer, and you hammer the hell out of it and get it nice and flush and flat. And it works out pretty well. So what I did was I went on opposing sides and just worked my way through. And you see I knock the washer down first and then cut off the excess. It can take a little bit of effort just to get that excess off. And then hammer away to get it flat. And because it's brass, it's pretty malleable. It's doesn't take much effort to get it flat. And you can see there I've got my little anvil underneath. It's not really an anvil, it's a piece of tile. But you can see it on top there. I've got the two sides in. Makes it look quite nice. I like the brass rivets. I could have got silver, which would have gone a little bit better with the hardware that I have on the strap. But you know, this is more traditional, I think, the brass. This is the kind of thing they would have used, but it would have been more of a brass nail that they'd have hammered in and then just hammered the edges over. So this is the modern version of that. But yeah, again, take your time with this. You see it flattens over quite nicely. A lot of bouncing. But yeah, there it is. There's a nice little contrast as well against the black of the bass. Just helps it stand out a little bit. And then there's the handle after a lot of sanding. And what I did here was I just measured it up. Now, part of this that I should note is that you line your handle up the opposite direction to your planks. Now the reason for this is the handle itself helps hold those planks together. Now of course these are fake planks. I just gouged the holes out and then stained them. But if it was a real shield and it was made of real planks, this is extra support to hold those planks in place. So yeah, what I did here was just make sure that it was centered and looked like it was in the right place, which it is. And got my shield flipped over just here and then marked those holes. And then here you can see I had a lot of trouble trying to get those center ones in because of where the bus was. And a couple of times I went to hammer it in and that the washer would like bounce off, or I'd knock the rivet through, and yeah, it was a little trial and error. And like I said, this is the first shield that I've made, so that's just the way it works. And then what I did here was just mark up 2 extra holes just to drill through and give extra support. And what I did was I made sure each rivet was 3 inches away from the other one. So I grabbed my drill and give it a good drill through. Just marking up those 3 inches. And I drill through and do that on both sides. And that is right around where I lost the footage for the rest of the build. Now, like I said, I only had the strap left to do. And I made the strap myself, put all the buckles on it and everything, and peened all the rivets and stuff into place. And I'll show you that in just a second when we go to the final looks of this shield. And I'll also show a couple of photos of those, the buckle and the holder afterwards as well. But yeah, right at this point, this is the end of our build, and you can see just how nice that edging has come out. as well on that. But like I say, I'll show you a nice close-up of it, and I'll show you a photo of what it looks like at the Ren Fair. So yes, stay tuned for that in just a second. Okay, and here is the finished shield. I am incredibly happy with this. For a first time of making it, I think it came out super nice. It was an interesting experience learning how to use Rawhide for the first time. Obviously you can see little things, that imperfections that I can work on just here, like where the overlap is, and the stitching down here. If I'd have had more time, obviously I was rushing so that I could take it to Ren Fair with me. If I had more time, I would have cinched it down an extra couple of times just to make sure it was nice and cinched in nice and tight. And what I might do, I have a ton of sinew left. I might just go through, cut all this out, and just re-cinch it. Should be fine. Shouldn't be difficult to do. It's not going to shift or move anywhere. This is like solid now. It's basically the same stuff that if you have a dog, you can get those chew toys. Not basically, it is exactly the same thing. Basically, when I got it, it was a hard roll. If you've seen my video, the two before this one, I took it out and showed you, and I'd like knocked it, and it was pretty solid. And it's basically gone back to how that is. All the moisture is dried up and wicked out of it, which has given a nice hard edge, which you can see why they would use this traditionally, just to keep all the boards and stuff in place and things like that. And then, you know, talking about that, just the staining of this, where it fell into the cracks, where I gouged these lines out, like this is completely smooth now, and it's filled in really quite nicely. Almost looks like it's been painted on, but it hasn't. It looks super nice. And then like going to the back side, you know, working on the handle and stuff like that, I'd try and do a better job kind of doing that. And then this I just threw together real quick, really quickly, just chucked this together. Found from Tandy leather like a Jormungandr style buckle and keeper, and it's basically just a snake eating its own tail, and you couldn't get more fitting really with a Viking shield. You know, I learned a lot from doing the peening and the wood cutting and everything like that, and I'm going to make another one, so that when I make another one, it's going to more than likely come out better than the one before. Next step on this one, I think I'm going to probably redo the sinew, and then I think what I'm going to do is put a design on the outside. Could be a raven, could be wolf. I could do a cool like Jormungandr all the way around the outside. That would look kind of cool actually with the buckle and stuff. That would kind of tie it all together. Do like a Celtic knot or something with his head at one end eating his tail. Yeah, I think that's probably where I'm going to go. I'll throw some designs out there. If you have any ideas of where you think I should go with it, throw them down in the comments. And then also while you're down there, you can hit that subscribe and like button if you've enjoyed this video. And then hit the notification bell as well, because I'm going to be doing some more videos. Next thing I'm probably going to start working on is chainmail, and just seeing if I can make some things to add to my Viking getup. And speaking of that, I'll throw a photo on here right now of me walking around the Ren Fair. Had the shield on my back the entire time. People were asking me about it, just asking me where I bought it, and I'm like, I made it. And if you want to check it out, here's where you can see the videos. And hopefully some of you guys that are watching right now were there at the Ren Fair and you were talking to me. But all the stuff that I am wearing around the Ren Fair is historically accurate Viking clothing. I got it from a website called grimfrost.com, and they're based in Sweden. Really good quality stuff. Everything is historical. So I have a foam axe and a foam sword that were found. The originals were found in digs around Norway, and basically they've built their own version of it, taken a mold, and then got the foam version that they've made. I'm probably going to buy the real versions, not obviously the ones that were dug up, but their replicas that they have, that I can add to my costume. And the next Renaissance Fair is going to be down towards San Diego at Vista. There's the Viking festival down there. So I've got a new tunic and stuff coming, and I have a helmet on the way as well. So I'll be wearing those down, and I'll be bringing the shield with me. So yeah, and if you guys have any more ideas of things that you want me to build, let me know. Put it down in the comments below. And also see my Twitch channel. It's twitch.tv/primitive_Viking. I'll put the link to it down below. I'm going to be doing gaming playthroughs, and I'm also going to be doing like live streams of me doing the chainmail and things like that, because I like talking to people as I do it, because making chainmail is pretty tedious. I'm gonna put that out there. It's just repetitive, and it's nice to talk to people as you do it. Yeah, come across, check that out. I've got my Instagram and my Twitter as well. I usually send out a tweet just saying that I'm going to be online, going and streaming on Twitch. So yeah, come across, check out the streams. We can have a chat, talk about Viking things, talk about anything. Also got the Primitive Viking merch with my Bjorn logo on there. So come check that out as well. And there we go. So I hope you guys have enjoyed coming along with me on the process of building this shield. And I've put together a little glamour video at the end here. So I hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. So sit back, enjoy, and all that's left to say is for Valhalla.